All right, bang. Today is Tuesday. It is February 20th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. As always, on Tuesdays, I'm joined by Chief. Chief, how are you today?
I'm doing fine, Ed.
Good. Great to be here. Great to have you. A topic today that we're covering, I saw Vibs blogged it over the weekend.
Oh, he did? I didn't see that.
Yes. Kind of all over Twitter, all over Barstool already, like we said. I think, like Vib said, a lot has to do with the fact that sports are in a very down period at the moment. So maybe more people.
Did he blog Navalny or blog Putin and Carlson and everything?
Navalny.
Navalny.
He
Okay.
blogged Navalny,
Right.
yes. Who we've talked about at length on this show.
Yeah, we did an episode on him back in 2021, I'm seeing. And I don't see this Vibs blog, but
Did it get pulled?
It might have gotten nated.
It got swiped.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
You don't see it at all?
I'm trying to pull it up. I could be looking in the wrong spot here. Let me see if I can grab it.
Yeah, a guy solving his own murder is 10 times more interesting than any plot of season 4 of True Detective.
Okay. All right.
That's what he blogged, 218. So we can get into it. Navalny, before we do, though, I want to talk about our friends at Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets to all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And you should always be looking at Game Time because myself, and obviously I'm sure all of you out there have been in a situation where you had a bad ticket buying experience, and it's no fun.
That happened
Sucks.
so long ago to me, I can't even remember.
Yeah.
Because I've just been on Game Time with no issues for, it feels like years now, and there's no problem. I will be using it. This is an ad, but this isn't an ad. I'm actually going to use it on Sunday to go see Patrick Kane, his homecoming, also Chris Chelios night. Also, Bedard is back. That's got to be, for a team that is the absolute worst team in the league, borderline unwatchable. That's got to be the hottest ticket ever in town.
Yeah,
Chelios,
for sure.
Kane, Bedard, pretty good combo right there. So yeah, get on Game Time, and last minute prices. They always have the drops, best deal. So easy to use, so easy to share too. If you have to send a ticket to somebody, just right there with the Game Time app.
Yeah, so take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code DOGWALK for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DOGWALK for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, so I guess I maybe jumped the gun. I don't know if today is more about Navalny or about the Tucker Carlson interview with Putin, but we could start wherever you wanted to let the race go off.
Yeah, I feel like if people weren't listening back in 2021 or just haven't followed the case, we should do a little bit of a refresher of who this guy is. Because to me, when I look at Navalny's resume, he's not that dissimilar to an account, or I don't know if it's more than one person, but like that Unusual Whales. You know that Twitter account, Unusual Whales?
Yeah.
Where they like, oh, Nancy Pelosi bought this stock, and oh, what do you know? They got some government contract. So he was really all about using the internet to expose corruption, and had been doing it for a long time. I want to say he really became prominent back as far back as 2008 when he started doing blog posts and YouTube posts, and he was really specifically targeting the energy giants out of Russia, which were Gazprom and Rosneft. So I think one is like an oil and one is the natural gas, and those are huge companies. And if you remember the guy who was the owner at Chelsea, but at the start of the war was kind of forced to fire or forced to sell the team, and then all his fucking yachts and everything got seized. And it was basically the way it went in Russia after Putin was elected, because they had that weird period in the 90s where it was like lawlessness and chaos and boom and bust, and food shortages and crazy corruption and crime and organized crime, and it was like a very scary, dangerous place. And that there in the 90s, it did a documentary. I can't remember if it was on Netflix or 30 for 30 or what, but we talked about it here at some point, where it was like the NHL tried to
the Red Penguin,
the Red Penguins, yeah, and they really showcased
chaos.
it.
Yeah,
that's what it was. It was absolute utter chaos. So then Putin comes in. I believe Putin got elected in 99. And, Putin's former KGB, and he really kind of put the clamps down and brought back, kind of law and order to a degree to Russia, where they didn't have, the rampant organized crime the way they used to. But it was also, did he get rid of it, or did he just bring it into the fold? Where it was like, yeah, all you guys have stolen all this shit, but now you got it, so you're in, and I won't go after you as long as you kick things upstairs. And there was that report that Putin might actually be the richest person in the world. And it was all kind of through this corruption, where it's Gazprom, you can operate kind of unfettered here without any real competition, but you're gonna have to kick some up to the big guy, which is Putin. And so Navalny, I mean, he passed away at the age of 47. He was in a maximum security prison, and he was serving a 19-year sentence. The charge was extremism, which that to me, that's as political as it gets, where those charges are political, because he was going after these people. But it's who is to define what extremism is? That Unusual Whales guy in a different universe, in a different country, posting how rich all these government officials are from being government officials. You could just say that that's extremism.
Yeah, he's probably gets sniped.
Yeah, he's trying to take down the government. So that to me was holy shit. And what did he actually do? So then in 2010, he formed this group called Rospill, which is an anti-corruption group, and it was all lawyers, and they would take these corruption charges. So in 2008, he was just kind of blogging about it. 2010, he kind of formally starts going after some of these people that he's charging with corruption, and is trying to take them to court. Because in 2010, Putin, while he had been in power for a long time, he did not have the stranglehold over everything in Russia the way he does now. Now he's basically the king. He went away for a little bit because his term limits were up. So they had this other guy come in who was, Putin's puppet. And then Putin rewrote the Constitution so he could be the president basically forever. So just, quite the move. So then, he forms that group. He starts trying to take these people to court. 2011, Navalny is, participating in mass protests, and those were after reports of rigged elections for parliament. And so I think he was thrown in jail for 15 days for participating in that. 2012, participates in more protests around Putin's re-election and inauguration. Imagine a protest about a re-election or an inauguration, and people ending up in jail. Couldn't be us. Russia then kind of flips the script on him. Okay. So then they start going after him. Actually, no, you're the one that's corrupt. So he was linked to this timber company where they accused him of embezzling. And he's like, this is just purely political. You guys are coming after me for embezzlement when just because I'm coming after you. And then they got him on that, and they got him on, and his brother, on embezzlement charge for that, and a French subsidiary of a cosmetics company that he was found shockingly guilty. And I don't know the details of the case. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but it does feel like, oh, you're coming after us. Well, now we're going to put the whole power of the state towards getting you. And they had this suspended sentence. Okay. And then in 2013, because he's not actually, doesn't have to serve the prison term that he's charged with. He runs for mayor of Moscow, and they allow that to happen because they wanted this veil of democracy in Russia. He's allowed to win. And then they kind of just, eventually just kept charging him. Then they got him on this extremism charge, and, very flimsy. We covered that case because there's just not other than participating in protests, if you're actually a democracy, the way that you're telling the West and the rest of the world that you are, then you should, then you should be allowing demonstrations and protests. But basically, anybody who's been a political rival of Putin in Russia, in Ukraine, in other places, ends up dead in prison or financially destroyed. Like, those are you oppose Putin, you're getting one of those three fates. And they certainly did that for Navalny. And then, you know, he released the Free Press, which is that Barry Weiss kind of newsletter. They obtained these letters that he wrote from prison, which sounds like just like the worst prison in the world, because he was in this place called, it was in Siberia. Like I said, it was the maximum security prison. That's even one of those, it's one of those places, like Siberia just sounds worse, you know, like, because if you're in the, ever heard of the Gulag Archipelago, which is all these, it's a book written about all these prisons under the Soviet Union that were, the archipelago is a chain of islands. Well, these are a chain of prison camps in the middle of this tundra, okay? And he's at a place like that. And it's like, even if you escape from one of these places, you got 1,000 miles of nothing in every direction in the freezing cold. Like, you're just fucking stuck there. And then on top of that, he was in a particular thing called I think it was called a shizo, okay? I want to make sure I'm spelling that right or saying that correctly. Yeah, shizo, S-H-I-Z-O. This is the most extreme punishment for Russian prisoners. And shizo, also referred to as the punishment cell, prisoners are held in solitary confinement. Access to hot water is restricted, and prisoners are granted 35 minutes a day for writing letters. You're allowed to have one single book. There are no phone calls or visits. So that's how he was living. And he had tried other things to gain, you know, publicity and support. He went on hunger strikes, and then I think he just kind of eventually gave up on this. And then he announced that he was in kind of poor condition. And then the official thing out of Russia was that he went for a walk and started feeling ill and fainted and died. So who the fuck knows? Because, I mean, Putin, you know, there was that president of Ukraine, the guy who was running for president, who was pro-Western in 2014, who they supposedly poisoned him and like almost fucking melted his face off. So like Putin just, and like there's all sorts of these, he has a history of, let me see if I can just Google the list.
Yeah, I know that guy's face was like, it was like,
oh, it's
black.
Just, it was like, it looked like it was black and bubbly, and I don't even know what you would call that, but
it was almost like charred.
Do you remember there was almost like those boils though too? It was fucking gross to look at.
That was a tough one to see for sure.
Yeah. So, but like, you know, if you add Prigozhin to that list too, who he ended up in a mysterious plane crash, that would be the second one that has been highly publicized this year. But I mean, Putin has, you know, 20 years worth of these political murders. And that, I think, if you were going to criticize Tucker Carlson's interview of Putin, beyond the fact that he did it, because a lot of people are being like, you shouldn't have done that, you shouldn't have done that. Beyond that, if you get beyond that, you could say he didn't ask one question about that, about political assassination. So that thing went for damn near 2 hours. I watched the whole thing the night it came out. Not a single question about the dozens of political opponents like Navalny and other more official people that he has murdered, you know, or people mysteriously end up shot in the back with none of the cameras are on, nothing like that. So he didn't ask him one question about that. And he was asked about that in a press conference. He goes, well, that's already been covered. He goes, our media already covers that. And it's like, yeah, like we do talk about that, but it would be interesting to hear what Putin himself would have to, even if he just dodges a question, be like, I don't know what you're talking about, those are unfortunate. Like he could at least ask the question and make him answer, don't you think?
Yeah. Do you think there was any way that he was told not to ask about that?
I don't know, because it did seem like he kind of asked about everything else, you know. And Tucker said he received no directive, or didn't say, like at the outset of that interview, it was like, hey, like nothing was, we weren't told we couldn't ask anything, or or certain things had to be edited. It was, you know, he said it was, aside from like the camera cutting and the audio dubbing, you know, for translation, they said it wasn't edited at all. So it'd be weird for him to like make that proclamation and then be like, you know, that was the one thing we were told not to ask was about political murders. And I don't think Putin would even ask that, because if you say, hey, don't ask me about the political murders, then it's like, well, why not? Okay, that's almost like you're indicting yourself. Maybe, I bet you Putin was expecting a... Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Maybe it just slipped by him. I don't know. It's still...
There's no time limit on this thing apparently either. So it was 2 hours. Could have been 4. Could have been 90, because the first half hour was a fucking history lesson going back to like the dawn of Christianity in Russia, which was like 900 something. Then you said you didn't watch any of that?
I saw the question near the end where he asked him about the American journalist that's in prison, which I found pretty interesting to, you know.
Yeah, I also, it's like I had heard about that guy, the New York Times kid, who's like 32 years old, clearly not like, you know, a CIA or spy or anything like that. He's clearly just a reporter. And I think Tucker got him on that for about 20 minutes and like kept circling back, and Putin was just like, you know, basically didn't budge on it at all.
Yeah, he's like, we have tried many times. We have many olive branches or something.
But that's like the other thing too, where it's like, yeah, we've done all these olive branches. Yeah, but like when we got fucking Brittany Griner back, we had to trade you for like an arms dealer, or multiple. It was not exactly like a quote unquote fair trade. Like, we're giving us a basketball player for like a war criminal. Like, that doesn't seem. A basketball player who had like vape pens, you know, weed vape pens. And you know, again, so I don't know if that's what Brittany Griner costs, I don't know what a person from the New York Times would be worth who is supposedly receiving information. But that to me is just, it is completely fucked. I'm surprised. I feel like this Tucker Carlson interview, which to me was, it's like we have the world is at war, and you're reacting to the Blues game.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's not going well for you.
It's over, 4-2.
4-2. Sorry to hear that. I'm gonna lose mine too. But you know, the world is at war, and you have the guy who's at the crux of it. You're interviewing him, and to me it was like a must-watch TV that people didn't really watch. I feel like it hasn't gotten really any coverage on the main. You know, if you go on the cover of Daily Mail or any like New York Post, any of these didn't really get into it. The big news outlets just kind of ignoring it, it feels like.
Now, is that because he's independent now?
I don't care who's interviewing him. I think the first
but you know,
interview,
these places do care about that shit. They want, you know, the certain sector to kind of stay at the top.
I guess, but but if you were going to come up with a clicky headline and you're the New York Post and New York Times or whatever, don't you think that Vladimir Putin and Tucker Carlson is worth a fucking billion clicks?
Probably.
So you're going to sacrifice a billion clicks for
but you know how
spite, basically?
People think backwards, too. Like, oh, I wouldn't want to promote his network and promote his work.
I think they say we don't want to promote, we don't want to give Putin a platform.
That, too. Yeah.
I never really understood that.
Well, on top of it, like, are we sure that it's not everywhere?
Yeah, I mean...
You've been searching and
I feel like I'm on the internet pretty good, and it has not received the type of... I mean, there were some nuggets in there that were like kind of jarring almost, where he said that I think he said in 1999, he was having... Clinton was over in Russia, and he was like, can we join NATO? Can Russia join NATO? You know, this whole thing has been about, you know, Russia getting protection from NATO. They keep encroaching, this and that. And Clinton said yes in the afternoon. Like, yeah, like that sounds great. Because then if Russia is in NATO, who are we scared of?
Yeah. Does NATO need to exist?
I would argue that it probably doesn't need to exist.
Yeah.
And at that point, if you're looking, like when we did you know, we fought World War II, and we were gonna bring Germany, you know, West Germany, and in Italy, and some of these places back into the fold after we had, you know, been fighting them. We instituted the Marshall Plan, which we gave like millions upon billions of dollars to rebuild those countries that we bombed the fuck out of. We've actually given more money to Ukraine than we did in the Marshall Plan to rebuild fucking all of Europe. And it's like, well, then why, you know, if we had an opportunity, if we won the Cold War, the Soviet Union collapsing, and then you have the second ever president of Russia, which is after Boris Yeltsin, is asking to join join NATO, basically being like, you could have a situation where you just never have any problems again. Now, Tucker was like, well, would you have said yes? And he's like, well, I don't know if I would have said yes. But he said later that night, Clinton, after talking to God knows who, came back and said, like we said we couldn't, our people said we can't do it. Who are those people? Who's telling the president of the United States that he can't let in Russia? Who's making that? Like, that's something I'd like to know.
Well, he doesn't know everything.
Clinton?
Yeah. Like, think about that. Like, the president should be a very smart guy, someone who knows the ins and outs of just about everything. But, like, I think it's okay to go back and your camp is like, hey,
but
think about this, this, and this.
Yeah.
But you want to know who his counsel was?
Well, and that's not the way, I mean, and maybe it went more the way that you're saying, but that's not the way that Putin laid it out in the interview. It's basically like Clinton said yes, you know, to him together at lunch. When they got back together for dinner, he said that his people told him no. And I'd like to know who are the people that can go above the president of the United States when it comes to policy decisions. Because that's foreign policy. That's an executive branch decision. So who is he consulting? I just want to, you know, who is he consulting, and who is ultimately pushing back on that idea, and for what reason? Like, that's something that should be, I feel like, revisited and asked to Bill Clinton. I feel like, you know, Hillary Clinton's actually fucking everywhere right now. I don't know if you've noticed that.
I have not.
She's giving comments on everything. It makes me think that maybe we won't have a rematch of 2020.
We'll have a rematch?
A rematch of 2016. Hillary wants back in the game. I mean, the amount that she's been out there in the last month talking about things, because she's probably sniffing around. She sees the same, and she said that Biden was a problem, like his age is a concern, because he's had a few bad ones in the last couple of weeks. So she made that comment, like, yeah, like his age is definitely a concern. And everyone's saying, you know, Gavin Newsom, governor of California, will be the DNC guy, or, you know, Democratic nominee if Biden steps aside. Maybe Hillary's like, hey, don't forget about me. Don't forget about me. I'm still here too, which would be fucking wild if Biden has to step away and it's not Kamala Harris, and then you have like at the convention in Chicago, you have like the smoke-filled rooms trying to choose between Hillary or Gavin or who knows, somebody else to run up against Trump. It's gonna be the wildest election, I think, of all time.
I mean, a rematch would be insane.
I don't think they could run her again. It would be insane. It would be insane. But I don't think they could run her again. She already proved that she lost. At least Biden won.
Yeah, I don't know.
But should be very interesting here in the next few months. So what happens when we don't have an actual primary? They should have just had an actual primary. Because I think if Kennedy was allowed to be a Democrat and actually run, and he did well in New Hampshire and Iowa, then I think other people would be like, you know what, I'm getting in too. Fuck it. Like, I'm getting in. I could beat Kennedy. Anybody can beat Biden, clearly. So then you would have had a more open forum leading up to the convention in June, because there would have still been time to get on ballots in other places. Would have been interesting, but that didn't play out that way. Also, have you seen Tucker, the travel blogger?
No, you were talking about it out there with Rudy. I didn't.
He went to I saw him go to a grocery store in Russia, and it was basically like he bought a week's supply of food for like $100. So basically being like, hey, all that noise about sanctions, and they're out of SWIFT, and their economy is going to be crumbling, this and that. They're not, the war-torn Russia, all this kind of stuff. The impression I got was that the people in Moscow are feeling the war in Ukraine in a similar manner to the way that we felt the war in Afghanistan, where it's like, we know what's going on. We have our opinions about it, but does it impact us on a daily basis? No. Shelves are still full, all that kind of stuff. But it was weird to see like Tucker kind of, I don't know, try to highlight how well things are going in Russia for like the common person, which is, I think that, I don't know why that would be the goal of part of that trip. And he went to a train station too in Moscow. It was beautiful. It was like it looked like a museum on the inside. Like you're walking down, they have all these mosaic like tile paintings, and everything's clean. You don't have like rats anywhere. But maybe, I don't know, maybe they set it up the way that we set it up when President Xi came to San Francisco, and let's clean up this whole city for 48 hours while Xi is here. No more poop on the streets, no more rats, no more homeless drug addicts. And maybe Russia did the same thing. It was like, hey, this is an opportunity for put our best foot forward in front of the West. Tucker Carlson's come and make sure this city is cleaned up. Could be. That's the thing, where it's like, no one, when you limit all the information and no one can go there, no one's been able to talk to Putin. It's like you don't. It's like they just become this kind of boogeyman behind the wall. And it's like, then you have someone go there and you're like, well, is that actually real, or is this kind of doctored to like, is Russia just trying to look good in this moment? And then the other thing I thought, I've heard like different candidates say like, hey, we would have a deal done to end the war in Ukraine like overnight. Trump said that. Kennedy has said that. Putin basically said that too, where it was like, hey, like we were gonna sign the Minsk Accords, where we were going to get we're going to pull out completely, and we're going to have some protection places for these eastern regions that were, ethnically Russian, and then we're going to, back out. That's what Putin said they had agreed to, that France had signed on, Germany had signed on, and then fucking Boris, the Prime Minister of England, of the United Kingdom, went over and fucked up the deal. And now we're still at war. So that was one of those things where it's like, if that offer still on the table, can we just end this war right now? The way that Putin was saying it to Tucker sounds like it's on the table. And it's like, how could anybody at this point oppose that? Let's just get the fuck out of there. Like I don't know. I'm becoming more of like an isolationist, I feel like, as I get older. Let's just stop fucking around everywhere else and keep our money here. But I thought it was very interesting that it happened, and Tucker said he's been trying to get that interview done for 3 years, and the CIA hacked his phone and released it to the New York Times, which is a fact. They don't even deny it. And that fucked up the interview a couple of years ago. And then like the amount of coverage it doesn't seem to be getting when you have, like, do you remember when Trump, I guess, I mean, that was two world leaders, but when he was going to North Korea, it was like the world stopped. And and North Korea wasn't at war with anybody, but it was us going to see them for the first time in who knows how long. But this, to me, I thought it would be like the #1 story for at least 3 days. People being like, can you believe he's doing it? And then an analysis of it, and either positive or negative. And I think there's plenty of positives and negatives from that interview to break down.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like it got the traction in the mainstream media the way that I would have expected. I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just went to his Twitter, and
Tucker's?
Yeah, the interview has 312,000 retweets.
Okay.
1 million likes, 205 million impressions. So that's some
those are numbers.
That's some good visibility, yeah. I'd say.
I mean, he's got 12.3 million followers, and he also said that he got assurances from Elon that it would not be suppressed or edited on Twitter. So thought that was interesting as well. But
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it could be clean as can be if you're having people run for office just getting popped. I don't know if it's the place for me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Although, hey, if it's done here in a different way, maybe a little cleaner, so to speak, it's still the same shit, right?
It's all the same shit. It's all the same shit. And it just feels, I don't know. It's like, I don't think it's to the point where I used to really believe in American exceptionalism. We're like, we're the fucking best. We're the nicest. We're the best. We're the richest. We got everything. All the best innovation, all the best in art, all that kind of shit, music, whatever. Now it's just like, I don't know if we do anything better than anybody. We just it seems like we just fuck everything up. But I don't know what's true. It's impossible to know what's true anymore. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I do think that it's good that he went over there, I guess, is my overarching point.
That's the final takeaway.
Yeah.
All right, then. We could leave it at that.
Leave it at that.
On that note, we'll see you all tomorrow for the free swim.